Closed mouths don't get fed. And that's a saying that we like to say here in the South. Closed mouths don't get fed. You better open
It's
your
the
mouth.
truth.
You better open
It's
your
the
mouth.
truth. Even
Resources are out.
literally.
Yeah, resources are out there. I know it's a hard time for women right now, but there are resources out there for us. And in this industry, you may know them, but they see you as competition, and they're not going to make that introduction. So again, it goes back to your faith and your perseverance. So I saw the barriers, right, of entry for me. I said, so I started studying the industry again as a business owner. Know your industry, know every element. Let me tell you one thing about, and this ties into perseverance. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and as a visionary, you have to know when to pivot as well.
Yes.
And you understand this as a businesswoman. You got to know when to pivot. You got to know when to tap into another gift that you may have. So here I was doing well, had contracts. Then in around 2008, 2009, just before Barack Obama came in the office, the housing market crashed.
Welcome, welcome, welcome again to another episode of Chatting with the Experts, where I speak with women from Africa, from the Caribbean, and in the diaspora. And these women are professionals and successful entrepreneurs, and today will be no exception. One thing is, they share with me my passion, which is to educate women globally. And of course, included in my passion, we inspire, educate, and empower women globally. I've had a few men join me, but for the most part, it's always women. Our title today is How Perseverance Has to Be Your Vision's Foundation. And my guest who will be joining me soon is an Atlanta based entrepreneur with 2 decades of experience in the marketing, entertainment, and finance spaces. That's really special. Her name is Sabrina Guice, and she brings a wealth of diverse experience, holding a bachelor's degree from the HBCU Fisk University, where the late John Lewis and the poet who passed away recently, Nikki Giovanni, attended. She specialized training from Temple University's Early Entrepreneurial Incubator, and she also holds a certificate from NYU's Tisch School of Arts, Business of Entertainment program. She also completed the 2024 inaugural Goody Nations Angel Wings cohort program for angel investing. In 2023, she demonstrated her strategic vision by acquiring a digital marketing franchise from global leader WSI, underscoring her commitment to cutting edge client solution. I can go on and on about her, but there's one thing I don't want to leave out, which is that coming back to 2024, she founded the Create Georgia Entertainment Alliance to support creatives in Georgia's expanding film, television, music, and gaming industries. And she is in pre development for film and television projects for clients. Wow, wow, wow. I'm always impressed with my guests. And so, why don't I welcome to Chatting with the Experts, Sabrina Guice. Sabrina, wow. I could have kept reading your bio, but I said, you know what? Why don't I let her complete whatever it is I left out
Oh
that
my
you would
goodness.
like to share with the
Oh,
audience?
Paula, first of all, I want to thank you so much for having me on your show. What you're doing is phenomenal. You're giving a platform from women like myself and others who have, we're in the trenches and we're doing a lot of work. But with your platform, our voices and our stories can be heard throughout the world. So I want to really thank you and much continued success to you and what you're doing. In
Thank
regards to
you.
myself, I'm pretty eclectic. And, as you were reading my bio, I'm like, ooh. I'm
Is that
tired.
me?
I done a lot. Oh my goodness. My story is an interesting story. I started out in the finance industry coming out of college. I worked for a company called Prudential Insurance, worked with them in sales and then as an underwriter. Transitioned from there, worked in ministry actually for a number of years in the communications area. That's how I ended up in Georgia. I was a communications manager for a very well-known global minister, traveled the world with him. And one thing he would always preach over the pulpit is you're not really, if you really want to walk in all that God has for you, try to create something that you own. And I took that to heart. So I only stayed with him for 2 years. And I said, I'm gonna start my own business. I literally worked myself out of a job and I went into PR. And that started me on the road for entertainment. And that's really where I am right now, film and television consulting. We also consult with people in gaming and music as well. And last summer started the Create Georgia Entertainment Alliance. Me and two other women here in Atlanta had lunch with them and they said, hey, whatever you decide to do, we're here to support you. Both these women are in film and TV. I've known them for a while. And a year later, we started last August, a year later, we're now in pre-development for 10 film and television projects on behalf of other creators, whether they're writers, directors, or they're producers. We're consulting with those. And two of those projects we're getting close to getting funded. So I'm really glad to see that all that I've gone through is now really paying off and I can pour that into others and help them fulfill their dreams and their visions.
Wow. You know, the thing is, well, we're going to be talking about how perseverance has been your vision's foundation. And that's the theme. But you know, I always say to people, you see people's success, but you don't know the story behind it. And there's so many ups and downs that people go through. And finally, a breakthrough or a series of breakthroughs, and people get to know them, but they don't know. So, you know, I love it that, you know, we're talking about perseverance has to be one's vision's foundation. Why do you say that though? I mean, I know we just said that is necessary, but you, when I spoke with you, you were like,
Yeah,
that's what you want to talk on.
it's your perseverance. And you know what, Paula, if you're an entrepreneur, first of all, if no one else believes in you, you have to believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to believe in yourself. You have to know that you're called to do what you're doing. And no matter what, you're going to continue on that path to fulfill your dreams and your vision. When I left ministry, it was truly a walk of faith. I live in a state where if you're fired I wasn't fired from my job, I walked off from working in ministry. But if you're fired from your job and if you lose, it's a high probability that you may get unemployment insurance. So you got to really, if you're going to leave that job, you got to really know that, okay, God is your provider and your resource. So when I left out of ministry, I remember my last check from the ministry. I remember I had taken a week off. I didn't get paid for that week because let me back up. I had started getting clients while I was still working there. And I needed to take a week off to begin the transition out. Well, my last check was under $100. So I
Oh,
walked out. I remember coming into my place. First thing I did was I hit my knees and said, God is me and you. I am believing God for this. I'm believing you for my provision. And I am not going to go off this path. That was in 2003.
hmm.
20 years later.
22 years ago.
Now I'm starting to walk in the harvest of that. And Paula, when I tell you it ain't been easy, it has not been easy. All the economic up and downs that you have to go through, all of you're chasing checks from clients that owe you money, those type of things. You're doubting yourself. You're like, huh, am I really supposed to be doing this? So I was able to do that for 15 years. I didn't have any outside work. I was in public relations. My first film project, I was introduced to an old Hollywood producer. He's 87 now. I had a conversation with him last week. His health is in decline, but he still adores
Mm,
me. He's done about
mm,
70 film and TV projects. And the first project he put me on was a huge film. Passion of the Christ that was
mm.
produced by Mel Gibson. So he
That's
literally
a
put
huge
me,
one.
that's a huge one to get your feet wet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was on the PR team for that. So I had to facilitate interviews. I did some interviews. We had to talk with some of these huge pastors that you see on television and that you hear about, work with them and help get them on radio and TV and things like that. So I didn't get paid a dime for that, but I got the experience for it because I knew that experience was going to come in handy for me one day. And it did. And that's launched me into the film and TV arena. Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
That's huge.
That was huge. Yeah. And that was back in early 2000s. And let me tell you one thing about, and this code ties into perseverance. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and as a visionary, you have to know when to pivot as well.
Yes.
And you understand this as a businesswoman. You got to know when to pivot. You got to know when to tap into another gift that you may have. So here I was doing well, had contracts. Then in around 2008, 2009, just before Barack Obama came in the office, the housing market crashed
Yes.
and it hit every nation. It wasn't just an American problem then. It hit
It
Wall
was
Street, which
global.
reverberated everywhere. It was a global crisis. So I ended up losing three corporate contracts, one after the other, boom, boom,
It
boom.
was not fun.
Did I give up? No, I said, okay, I got to pivot. So I moved back up north, got a freelance contract with a literary PR firm, and I had a contract for 2 years. And that's when I got exposed to the literary community as a publicist. And I said, and I start seeing more and more people trying to self-publish and not have to deal with the publishing houses because people were losing their jobs. And so they had to learn to pivot. They said, well, let me write a book and sell my books. So we were marketing those books, we were promoting those books. We did work with some clients from major publishing houses, but the independent writers were primarily our clients. And I said, you know what? I can do this. Again, going back to pivoting, perseverance. So I'm a good writer. I can do this. I'm going to start my own publishing company. And I did that. And I ended up ghostwriting 35 books for clients over an 8-year period. When that was happening. Meanwhile, in the background, the TV and film industry in Georgia was building up, building up. I said, okay, and I want to get back in filming. Economy's stable. Okay, I'm doing great. I want to now transition back into film and TV because I was just getting my start in it when the whole housing market crashed. So I came back to Atlanta. I mean, there were some movies being made all over the city of Atlanta. And with the TV and film industry, is a matter of you have to know people to get through some doors. You have to persevere to get through some doors. And that's what I did. Yeah, I knew people, but unfortunately, they didn't help me get through some doors. But I did this
I'm
myself.
not laughing at you. I'm just thinking that can be a big reality. You may know people. That doesn't mean you're getting through the doors.
Honey, and in this industry, you may know them, but they see you as competition, and they're not going to make
Mm.
that introduction. So again, it goes back to your faith and your perseverance. So I saw the barriers, right, of entry for me. I said, so I started studying the industry again as a business owner. Know your industry, know every element of your industry. I knew I didn't want to be in front of a camera, and I had no interest being an actress. I knew
Mm.
I didn't want to be necessarily right behind the camera as a producer, director. I wanted to get into the business side of it. That's where
Mm.
decisions are made, the finance side of it. So, me being the analytical woman that I am, I said, what can help me get through that door and get a seat at the table? I know what I'll do. Let me go back and finance the industry I first went into when I came out of college. But this
Mhm.
time, I'm going to get my broker license as a stockbroker. And I want to learn how wealth is produced, how the mind of the investor works, how investments work. So now you're going to laugh at this. One day, I got in my car. I went down the street to a broker's office. He was with the investment firm Edward Jones. I just looked him up. I said, let me go up in here. Walk up in there. I'm sitting in the lobby. And then he had just finished with a client. He came out, the secretary said, you can go back and see him now. And I walked in his office. I said, sir, I'm not here to invest with you. I want to know how I could get in your seat and become a broker just like you. He sat back in his chair. He said, people don't come in my office and say this kind of stuff. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. Honey, I had confidence.
I'm just thinking you walked in there.
I
You
walked,
walked in there confident. You walked in there, but you're a Christian. So you walked in there knowing you're not alone. There's a
yeah,
purpose.
yeah, I knew my purpose, right? So I started telling him about myself, and he was very impressed. He said, "Okay, so you ran your own business, you endured the economic crisis, you knew how to reinvent yourself." I said, "Yeah," but see, he did what he didn't know at the time. I knew I wanted to get the experience for what I'm going to do in film and TV, right? So I went through the whole process with Edward Jones. I sent him my resume. He sent it up to channels. So I got into their training program. It was very stressful. You have to, even to be interviewed, you got to go through a 10-step process. And the last process, you're on the phone and in front of a computer, and they call a day in the life of a broker. So you have people on the other end who are pretending they're customers, and you got emails, fake, pretend emails coming through,
Yes.
and you got to know how to handle all of that going on at once. Paula, I didn't know at the time until afterwards, and I passed it with flying colors, and that's when they
Wow.
made a position. But the people who were on the phone were, and I don't know the formal name of it, but they were like vocational psychiatrists. They were analyzing us, or psychologists. They were analyzing us. How do we handle pressure? How do we communicate? They were scoring us on that. And if you didn't score high, they wasn't going to offer you. They weren't going to give you an opportunity to study for the broker license. So I passed it, and they offered me opportunity. So then I was just his beginning. Then I went through intensive studies for my Series 7. I was literally studying from Monday through Saturday. They gave you a schedule, 8 hours a day, just studying, studying, studying. You had to sit for this test. I sat for what they call a top-off test, passed that. Okay, now you can go to the Series 7, study, study, study. Series 7 is a 4-hour test. You can't have any notes or anything. It's monitored. You're in a room, they're watching you. And you got to memorize about 20 formulas, financial formulas, how to figure things out, how to figure out how do they price stocks and things like that. So I had that, was writing that stuff, boom, passed it. Then I had to sit for my Series 66, which is the law, they call it the blue sky law. So you have to learn the laws of the industry, past that. Became a broker, exceeded my goals for 2 years with Edward Jones. Me being the competitive woman I am, I said, okay, Edward, remember my goal was going back in entertainment. They didn't know that though.
So you had a
I said,
plan.
right. That wasn't, I knew what I was going to do. 2 years, I said, okay, that's enough. Let me go to a bigger company. So I went to JP Morgan Chase. Got
Stop
hired.
right there, because one thing you haven't shared with my audience is that you were a former VP of investments and
Yes,
private client
client investment
advisor at JP Morgan.
at JP Morgan Chase. Got the job at JP Morgan Chase. So once you get in that position, you have the designation of being the vice president of investments. So I work with, at Edward Jones, I had a client base of about 250 people. JP Morgan, I had a client base a little bit over 300. So I have sat down and had communication and talk and conversations with close to 500 investors, anywhere from the small investor who has just a couple of hundred to maybe open up an IRA for retirement, to those with tens of millions of dollars are looking for some estate planning and other strategies. So it gave me a good glimpse into the world and the mind of the investor. Again, I know when I go back in entertainment, I want to go on the business side. Did that for 2 years. I said, okay, bye, JP Morgan Chase. I'm out. Now I'm ready to go back into the film and TV industry. But now I got my designation, my experience, and I can work with people and filmmakers, because the biggest hurdle that they have is funding their projects. They don't know how to talk to the investor. They don't know how to package their projects. That's what we do now. That's what I'm doing now, is working with those filmmakers to help them with that. Where we get paid is if I secure funding for them, I get a commission on that. Plus, there is a consulting fee. A lot of them don't have the money to pay us the full consulting fee up front, so we may get it on the back end with some of the bigger projects. I get about, on average, between 3 to 5 films pitched to me every week. I may select maybe one out of those, maybe one. A lot of times people come to us, I know we can't do anything for them, but I will give them guidance and say, well, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, and give you some guidance.
So you said something a few seconds ago, not minutes ago, about you get at least 3 to 5 people coming to pitch the ideas to you, but you choose one. So what's the criteria you're looking for?
We're looking for, there's a list, but I'll tell you right now, we would love to see a script. Most people do have a script, how well written it is. Also, has the script been what we call in the industry covered? That means it has gone through this, or a company that has reviewed the script, and they make grading and some recommendations. You make the corrections, and then they will grade the script for you. Typically, we look for grade 90 and above. So those are pretty
Okay.
good. So it tells you the probability that this is a good script. It should do well when you film it or when you tape it. And then you should do pretty well. The audience will react pretty well to that particular script. So we
Mm,
want to look at the script. Do you already have a distribution agreement in place? If not, what is your plans for distribution? Because you remember, any investor, if they want to invest in anything, how am I going to get my money back?
money back.
When am I going to get my money back? So show me, Mr. Producer, how do you plan to pay me my money back? So a smart producer or director has that in black and white. Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to go to this network or this streaming service. We have this door open at this streaming service, or we're going to pitch the streaming service. We want to see that, because before we go to any investor, that's the first thing they're going to ask us. Is there a plan of action, a marketing plan, distribution plan? So they want to see that. Also, if you have any attachments, and what I mean by attachments, what actors are attached, what producers are attached. You may not have a well-known actor right now, but you may have a really sharp producer who has some great credits. And then we know that they can get to some of those actors and bring them on, because they may know some casting directors to help them bring that on. So it's just not a matter of, oh, I got a great story. I need $1 million to make this story. You got to have a criteria for us. And there's a list of about 10 items that we have, but those are probably, and the budget. That's very, very important. The
Oh,
budget.
yes.
You got to have the budget. We want, because an investor want to say, okay, you need this money. Where's it going to? Is it realistic? Is your budget really realistic? Are you underpricing your project, or are you overpricing it? Where's my money going to? So we want to see some of those things.
This is not an eye opener, but this is good to know because, you see, I always have wondered how did this, movie or TV show, how did it get to where it is?
Mm-hmm.
And what was the criteria for the investors? So this has been an eye opener for me
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
a lot of
It
ways.
is. It's, you look at something on TV and you're like, oh, that's a great series.
Mhm.
I tell you, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes to get it there.
To there.
Because the majority of projects that are pitched to these streaming networks are
They
rejected.
don't make it.
Majority. Probably about 90% of them get rejected. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Sabrina, we've been talking for 30 minutes. I can't believe that. But
Oh my
what I
goodness.
wanted to, you've told us about the importance of perseverance because you definitely
Yes.
persevered and you always had a plan in mind. You didn't just, it wasn't just, impulsive. You
No.
always knew what the next
Yes.
steps were and you prepared towards that.
Right. My ultimate goal is to build a film fund.
To
It is
build a what, sorry?
film fund, a fund for films, and build a film fund. That is my
Oh,
ultimate goal. It takes a lot to do it. But the first step that we're going to be doing in 2026 is we're creating an angel investing syndicate. That's why I went to that angel investing training program for 6 weeks last year. Build a
mhm.
syndicate so we will have other accredited investors around the world. It's not just American based, even though I'm here in America, but global based accredited investors who are interested in looking at alternative vehicles to put their money for investment. And one of those alternative investments would be film and television projects. It is high risk. That's why they have to be an accredited investor. So we'll have the films presented to them if they want to be a part of it, whether it's on development stage, pre-development stage, a production stage, or post-production. What we can make the introduction between the investor and the filmmaker that way, but we'll have a community of investors that we can now send our films through. And that would lay a foundation for that. We plan to launch that next year.
Because I know we always have a very interactive audience.
Yeah.
But not everybody can, of course, is in our audience. What is one tip, one parting tip you can leave so that whoever looks at this episode later on will say, I learned, well, of course, you said a lot, but just one parting tip.
One important tip is, to me, is keep your eye on your goal and write it down. Don't just
Oh,
have it in your head. I had a mentor tell me this about 25 years ago. He said, Sabrina, he had an MBA from Harvard, very smart man. He says, I don't take an idea serious unless it's written down.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't written your vision down and you have see it on paper and you haven't written out, okay, well, these are my vision. How am I going to get to the vision? How am I going to allow this vision to unfold? This is a milestone. My milestone may be getting my LLC. My milestone may be getting a mentor, a business coach. My milestone may be getting funding. Put realistic milestones for your vision, a couple of milestones. And as you reach your milestone, okay, I did that, check that off, check that off. But unless you write it down, it's just an idea. I have written so many business plans. I have revised so many business plans. You have to do that. Write your business plan out. Or even if you can't even, if you don't know how to write a business plan out, at the very least, write the executive summary. The executive summary will help you. And for those women who are listening to this who are American based, I'm going to give you a resource which is free that can help you from A to Z to get your business going. It's a small business development center. Every major city has these. They go through the different state university systems. Here, Georgia State has one. It is a government-backed entity. These are retired entrepreneurs who work through these entities and serve as mentors and coaches for these business leaders. And they can help you with marketing research, helping you get your 2 to 3 year financial projections in place. You don't have to pay anything. So look for that. Look for wherever country you are. Look for free resources, especially from the local universities. They may have resources for entrepreneurs. Look for women organizations. Call them, contact them. Even if they can't help you, say, well, ask them, hey, well, do you know who can build a mentorship program in this program? Oh, yeah, we do have a program we can refer you to. Closed mouths don't get fed. And that's a saying that we like to say here in the South. Closed mouths don't get fed. You better open
It's the
your mouth.
truth.
You better open
It's
your
the
mouth.
truth. Even
Resources
literally.
yeah, resources are out there. I know it's a hard time for women right now, but
Mhm.
there are resources out there for us. Do your research. And with AI can help you to find those resources. You go into AI, Chat GPT, or whatever tool you use, tell it, write a prompt of what you're looking for. It'll spit out all this information. Then you
Mhm.
could ask it more. It'll do that. Those kind of things. And as a gift to your guests, any woman that reaches out to me, if they're interested, I have a database, private equity funders and VC funds that fund women-led companies. Now you got to have your stuff together to approach them, but at least it is something that you can use. You can start.
That's absolutely fabulous and a good note to end on. I
Yeah.
was going to ask you where you can, well, you said they can reach out to you personally and ask you
Yes.
for those resources. Yes. So can you just tell us where
Yes,
they
ma'am.
can find you? Do you have a website? Are you on IG,
Sure.
well, I want to say, are you on social media? How can they get in
Uh,
touch with you?
My LinkedIn is Sabrina Guice. My name is Sabrina, first name, last name Guice, Guic as in cat E. My email address is, and I prefer email, is sabrina@creategeorgia.com. I have two websites, but I'm gonna give you the one that the company we talked about today,
Mhm.
creategeorgia.com. That is our website. You can go on there and you can take a look at some of the projects we're working on. And we have a little promo video on there as well. So those are the three ways that you can reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy. Just let me know that you heard me on the program,
And
and
chatting with the
that way
experts.
I can give Paula a shout out and email her back, say, hey, I heard from somebody. This is to reach out to me, and I want to thank you. So I'll be more than happy. Anybody that reaches out to me, through my email or through LinkedIn, just make sure you give me your email address if you want that list of those VC and those private equity firms for women.
That's That's phenomenal. I'll drop it in the chat too for
Okay.
those who have joined us. And as I say every week, if you will, I get to speak to phenomenal women, and Sabrina is one of them. And if you're a woman, and I also speak with a few fabulous men, if you'd like to be a guest on this show, please reach out to me on my website, which is chattingwiththeexperts.com. You can also contact me on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. My handle there is @chat_experts_podcast. I'm also on Facebook these days. And I say these days because I wasn't much of a Facebook person in the past. And we have a YouTube channel. So there are various ways to get in touch with me. And for those of you who are in the audience, this is now a great opportunity to ask all the questions or comments on what I learned and you have learned from Sabrina. And one last word from Sabrina is that closed mouths never get fed.
Okay. That's right.
That's the
Open your
truth.
mouths, ladies. You have what it takes. Don't be silent.
Don't be silent.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. And we'll open up the floor now to those who have joined us. Woo, this is good.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.